So I feel like it's been a couple of months since I posted a video. I went ahead and did a video on rebuilding the starter, the alternator, and also the power steering pump. Everything around the engine is pretty much rebuilt and refinished and everything. Regarding the engine itself, it runs pretty well. I would say most people would probably say don't even bother messing with it, don't open it up, just leave it as is. It's running great, and it is. It's running pretty well. I live in Georgia, there's a lot of hills around here. I'm just not getting the power that I would like going up some of the hills. Just sort of as a daily driver, I don't drive it on the highway, I just go to work and come back. Again, it's kind of a smooth idle. I can maybe even start it up here in a couple of minutes and just do a kind of a short clip on that. And so just want a little bit more power out of it. I did a compression test, I did a leak down test, I did dry and wet compression test, and I am losing probably somewhere around 20%. It seems like through the rings. I've checked the exhaust and I've checked the intake, and I don't feel like I'm getting any leakage from the valves in there. Again, and when I do the compression test, I'm getting a fair amount of air coming out of the oil hole here. And also in general, around the dipstick tube is a little bit wet when I'm running the engine. So I think there is a little bit of blow-by going on there. It's not horrible. Again, it runs pretty well. It's fairly smooth. It revs up very nicely. It's responsive. It's got a 2100, I guess, Motorcraft 2100 in it. The bushings are shot in it, or it needs new bushings. It needs to be drilled out. Not quite sure what I'm going to do with that yet. The engine just doesn't run with as much power as I'd like. I may do something with intake, maybe a Clifford intake, something like that. I don't know if I'm going to go to headers. I kind of like the idea of saying stock with the intake and the exhaust as well, but we'll kind of see. I haven't totally figured out if I want to do that or not. It's got an HEI distributor. All the stuff has been gutted from it, all the emissions, all the wires, everything else. So it's pretty clean inside there. It's pretty straightforward. It's a 258 straight 6. I've read a lot of people doing the 4.0 head swap. Gives a lot more power. You know, go ahead and go with the Howell fuel injection, the Sniper. But I want to keep things stock if I can. I'd like to stick with the carburetor. Again, I don't know what I'm going to do with my Motorcraft right this moment. I may go for a higher performance carburetor. And as far as the cam goes, I'm probably going to replace the can, maybe a little bit higher performance cam. I may port the intake and the exhaust manifolds. Again, not sure. Roller rockers are an option. I'm going to go ahead and open it up and see what I see. I don't even know if I'm going to have anything rebored in terms of replacing the pistons or anything like that. I could go to some form of stroker, but again, I like to keep it as stock as possible. So I'm planning on keeping the head, if I have to bore, I have to bore, but I'm fine replacing the cam and working on that, and maybe some of the valve train area, and also some of the porting for the stock intake and exhaust. Again, keeping with the carburetor. So I'm going to pull it all apart and see. I'm not sure what I'm going to find. I don't know how much wear there's going to be inside there, but I'm going to pull it apart and then sort of pull together a plan for exactly what kind of things I want to do with it. I'll do a quick review and go around the engine a little bit and maybe show it running. You see, I got the crane here. The crane's gonna be a little issue. I'll probably do a separate video just on pulling the motor, because I'm not quite sure with this particular engine hoist, even extended out. I may have to pull the bumper off to get it far enough in, because the boom doesn't go far enough across to get to the center of the engine. I probably can't get to the center of the engine regardless, but if I'm going to mess around with the bumper and see if I can't roll it a little bit closer. I thought about taking off the quarter panels and coming in from the side, but I don't know if that spacing is going to be any better with getting in there. I think the whole wheel well comes out when you pull the quarter panels out, because I've had both of them out of there. But again, I'm not quite sure if that's the way to go. So I'm going to try just removing the bumper and see if I can't squeeze the hoist a little bit close enough to make it. Also the bell housing, I'm excited to do a video on the inside of the bell housing. I've done the clutch mechanism and everything on the outside, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on that because I think a lot of people are replacing it or just want to know what the orientation is. So I'm going to do a separate video when I get everything pulled out of the inside of the bell housing. The springs, the little ball bearing that's in there that holds the clutch fork in there. There's a couple different pieces there. I can see that, you know, if you're planning on replacing your clutch or trying to get into this and that bell housing or trying to figure out what's going on in there, that having a video of the inside of it would be really helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and do that while I have it out. And yeah, I've never rebuilt an engine before, but we're going to give this a shot. I feel like I, you know, have watched enough videos, so maybe I have some idea of how to pull it apart and put it back together, but we'll kind of learn as we go. So I'm going to go ahead and do, like I said, a quick walk around of the engine, maybe get it started a little bit just to show, you know, what the beginning process is. Oh, and also I didn't want to forget, I want to take a look at priming the fuel pump. I'm thinking a lot ahead about the break-in procedure, and I want to make sure that I'm setting myself up as well as possible so that there's no issues. It can start right up on the first crank and it gets going. All right, so here's a little bit of a close-up right now of the hoist. You can see it's butting up right against there. And I got the boom out here, and this is as far as it goes. So I got a little ways to go. I probably have ideally another 9 inches or so that I'd like to get it, but to the center of the engine, I don't think I'm going to gain that. But if I pull the bumper off and try to push it in, I can probably skirt most of that distance. See, again, the alternator I've rebuilt and I've redone, so it's all nice. I'm just going to take it off and pull it to the side before I pull the engine. I've marked everything on the distributor. I mean, pretty basic stuff here, but again, I'm trying to get everything set up so that I don't have any issues into the future. Starter's been redone. I'm going to pull everything apart here. Everything's clean. It's just a matter of pulling it out and getting the insides. I'm going to pull the radiator off and probably this whole front. The engine sits so low that the hoist would have to bring it up pretty high to try to get the engine out of there over this front. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull off the front clip here and the radiator. I don't think it'll be that big a deal. It's only like 8 or 10 bolts holding all of it together with a couple of wires. And over here, again, the power steering pump I've redone. I don't want to mess around with the fittings down there. I was kind of glad that there was no leaks when I connected it back up, so I'm just going to take it off and pull it to the side before I pull the engine. There's a carburetor. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of gas leak down in there. Like I said, I think I need re-drilled and new bushings, something like that, but again, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I'm also going to take a look at this, and I'll video this in a couple of minutes here. I'm going to pull the fuel line and go ahead and see if it's possible to prime the whole fuel system. That's one thing I'm concerned about. When I restart it, when I let it sit for a week or two and I don't drive it, and I think I've heard from a lot of people that it takes a while for the mechanical fuel pump to just get going and reprime with all the fuel. But I'm going to take a look and see if I can't put just a simple little pump here, so a couple months from now when I pull this back together, I can pump it up. I have a little ball pump. I'm going to see if I can't pull the fuel. I'm not sure what's going on there, if it's an open system, if when it's off you can just pull fuel up to this point, fill up the bowls in the carburetor, and then you should be good to go. I haven't seen anybody talk about that yet, but again, I'm going to try to give myself as much room for, or opportunity for it to start right up. So again, a little bit of a view of underneath there. I can see the bell housing in the back. And if I pull the front off, I don't have to mess around with the fan. The fan's a pain in the butt to get to with the bolts up there. I've already redone that and cleaned that up before as well. So again, I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. I'm not quite sure. I might pull the intake and the exhaust off of here before I pull it out. I'm going to start messing around with stuff, start undoing bolts, and we're going to see, I don't know, just how it looks. So here it is warmed up. Again, it runs pretty good, pretty smooth. I do have a little bit of a coolant leak down in there, right down in there with the bolt, so I'll be able to fix that as well while it's out. Well, this is pretty exciting. I had mentioned in the initial part of the video that I wanted to try out to see if I could prime the gas line coming from the fuel pump over there, the mechanical fuel pump, over here for break-in to make sure that it's all gassed up, ready to go. So essentially priming the fuel filter and the fuel line and everything, I can manually fill up the bowls in the carburetor and just get it going. So I just hooked up, I have just like a simple little ball valve thing here, a little pump, and I just did some duct tape right here, again just as a kind of temporary test, and it actually works. So in a couple months when I go to start this up again, I can use that to prime the fuel line. So that's pretty exciting, so I don't need to worry about that aspect of it. I was kind of concerned about how I was going to be able to do that. All right, I got most of this already apart. I'm just going to go through a couple of the connections. So really, it didn't take that long. Once you start pulling bolts apart, if you've already kind of broken into stuff here and there, it really doesn't take that long to pull everything out. Just make sure you bag and tag absolutely everything. So this goes to the radiator right here. So that came out, really flushing out the radiator fluid probably took the longest amount of time. So I had my hoses disconnected here, and I tried to flush that out as much as possible. This, obviously, these two go to the under dash heater core in there. I've already replaced that before. I got a video on that. And then down here, you see the oil pressure gauge goes right in there. That's a sending unit, goes right in there, and that connects to the, I just saw this the other day on somebody mentioned it, the electric choke and also the something else. So there's a sensor there. I got all the spark plug wires out, labeled my distributor, which is probably a little bit overkill, but I didn't want to leave anything to chance. So I've got that all labeled. I have my fuel. I have my manual fuel pump disconnected. I think that's everything on this side. Again, there really wasn't too much. The alternator was right there. I'd already had that off recently and redone the alternators, so that was kind of easy and straightforward. Just a couple of bolts there. Solenoid on this side. I'm pulling off the power steering pump just to the side here. I'm going to leave it connected. There's some hoses back there. I'm kind of concerned that if I start disconnecting them again, because I just pulled it apart like 2 months ago, that I'm going to get some kind of leak, and right now I have not had any leaks, so that's good. I want to just kind of leave that okay. So I got the carburetor off. I got the fuel filter off here. This goes, I left this on. This is for the vacuum advance on the distributor. Just want to leave it on there because that plugs right into the carburetor. I'm not quite sure yet. I might pull off the intake manifold and exhaust manifold before I pull it out. No, don't quite know yet. Not quite sure. All the pedal cable assembly is pulled off there that goes to the distributor. That goes to the carburetor. And I have these all labeled. That goes to the electric choke right there. Little cable. And this goes, one of those goes to the hot water or the water temp sensor, which is right there. So that's right there.
I have the radiator out. So that was all of 4 bolts that held that in. Just the 2 clips right there, and 2 clips over on the other side there. Here and here. That was an aftermarket radiator that the previous owner had put in. So I pulled that out. That was pretty easy. I'm going to pull off the front grill here. And I've already got the supports pulled off. And so I had these bolts off and I pulled the quarter panels off. I believe there's 3 bolts under here. And there's 3 bolts under here. And then a couple wiring harness connections in the back. I'm going to pull this all out. I'll probably clean it all up while I have it out. Once I get the motor back in and everything, potentially. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it's kind of a little bit nasty and dirty back there. Everything works okay. I think I just might clean it all up. But I think after I get this front off here, get the load leveler connected up on the engine hoist, it's time to start pulling it out. So that should be kind of fun. All right, I'm going to wrap up this video now. As you can see, I did finally get the motor out, and I'll go ahead and post both these at the same time so I can put a link to the second one at the end of this one here, and it should be showing up, I think in this corner here, something like that. Anyways, I'll put a link up there. You can kind of see a little bit about the process of us taking out the motor and getting it mounted to the motor stand. Again, it was a little bit more trial and tribulation than I was hoping for, but we did eventually get it out. So it's all safe and sound up on the rack and ready to be disassembled, but I'll go ahead and finish up that video as well and go ahead and post them. And like I said before, or earlier in this video, that I will be tearing the whole thing down and rebuilding it. So subscribe if you're interested in following along and kind of seeing how that process works out.